1. The Adventure of the Western Star. I was standing at the window of Poirot's rooms looking idly on the street below. That's queer, I ejaculated suddenly beneath my breath. What is mon ami? Asked Poirot placidly from the depths of his comfortable chair. Deduce Poirot from the following facts. Here is a young lady, richly dressed, fashionable hat, magnificent furs. She's coming along slowly, looking up at the houses as she goes. Unknown to her, she is being shadowed by three men and a middle-aged woman. They have just been joined by an errand boy who points after the girl, gesticulating as he does so. What drama is this being played? Is the girl a crook, and are the shadow detectives preparing to arrest her? Or are they the scoundrels, and are they plotting to attack an innocent victim? What does the great detective say? The great detective mon ami chooses as ever the simplest course. He rises to see for himself, and my friend joined me at the window. In a minute he gave vent to an amused chuckle. As usual, your facts are tinged with your incurable romanticism. That is Miss Mary Marvel, the film star. She is being followed by a bevy of admirers who have recognized her. And en passant, my dear Hastings, she is quite aware of the fact. I laughed. So all is explained, but you get no marks for that, Poirot. It was a mere matter of recognition. En vérité, and how many times have you seen Mary Marvell on the screen, mon cher? I thought about a dozen times, perhaps, and I once, yet I recognize her and you do not. She looks so different, I replied rather feebly. Ah, sacré, cried Poirot. Is it that you expect her to promenade herself in the streets of London in a cowboy hat, or with bare feet and a bunch of curls as an Irish colleen? Always with you it is the non-essentials. Remember the case of the dancer, Valerie St. Clair? I shrugged my shoulders, slightly annoyed. But console yourself, mon ami, said Poirot, calming down. All cannot be as Hercule Poirot, I know it well. You really have the best opinion of yourself of anyone I ever knew, I cried, divided between amusement and annoyance. What will you? When one is unique, one knows it, and others share that opinion, even if I mistake not, Miss Mary Marvel. What? Without doubt, she is coming here. How do you make that out? Very simply, this street is not aristocratic, mon ami. In it there is no fashionable doctor, no fashionable dentist, still less is there a fashionable milliner. But there is a fashionable detective. We, my friend, it is true. I am become the mode, the dernier cry. One says to another, Comment, you have lost your gold pencil case? You must go to the little Belgian. He is too marvelous. Everyone goes, courez, and they arrive, in flocks mon ami, with problems of the most foolish. A bell rang below. What did I tell you? That is Miss Marvel. As usual, Poirot was right. After a short interval, the American film star was ushered in, and we rose to our feet. Mary Marvel was undoubtedly one of the most popular actresses on the screen. She had only lately arrived in England in company with her husband, Gregory B. Rolfe, also a film actor. Their marriage had taken place about a year ago in the States, and this was their first visit to England. They had been given a great reception. Everyone was prepared to go mad over Mary Marvel, her wonderful clothes, her furs, her jewels, above all one jewel, the great diamond which had been nicknamed to match its owner, the Western Star. Much true and untrue had been written about this famous stone, which was reported to be insured for the enormous sum of £50,000. All these details passed rapidly through my mind as I joined with Poirot in greeting our fair client. Miss Marvel was small and slender, very fair and girlish looking, with the wide, innocent blue eyes of a child. Poirot drew forward a chair for her, and she commenced talking at once. You'll probably think me very foolish, Monsieur Poirot, but Lord Cronshaw was telling me last night how wonderfully you cleared up the mystery of his nephew's death, and I felt that I just must have your advice. I dare say it's only a silly hoax, Gregory Sesto, but it's worrying me to death. She paused for breath. Poirot beamed encouragement. Proceed, madame. You comprehend I am still in the dark. It's these letters. Miss Marvel unclasped her handbag and took out three envelopes which she handed to Poirot. The latter scrutinized them closely. Cheap paper, the name and address carefully printed. Let's see the inside. He drew out the enclosure. I joined him and was leaning over his shoulder. The writing consisted of a single sentence carefully printed like the envelope. It ran as follows. The great diamond, which is the left eye of the god, must return whence it came. The second letter was couched in precisely the same terms, but the third was more explicit. You've been warned. You have not obeyed. Now the diamond will be taken from you. At the full of the moon, the two diamonds which are the left and right eye of the god shall return. So it is written. The first letter I treated as a joke, explained Miss Marvel. When I got the second, I began to wonder. The third one came yesterday, and it seemed to me that, after all, the matter might be more serious than I imagined. I see they did not come by post, these letters. No, they were left by hand by a Chinaman. That's what frightens me. Why? from a chink in San Francisco that Gregory the stone 3 years ago. Bought the stone 3 years ago. I see, madame, that you believe the diamond referred to be the Western Star, finished Miss Marvel. That's so. At the time, Gregory remembers there was some story attached to the stone, that the chink wasn't handing out any information. Gregory said he seemed just scared to death, and in a mortal hurry to get rid of the thing. He only asked about a tenth of its value. It was Greg's wedding present to me. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. The story seems of an almost unbelievable romantic, and yet who knows? I pray of you, Hastings, hand my little almanac. Complied. Voyons, said Poirot, turning the leaves. When is the full moon? Ah, Friday next. That is in 3 days' time. Eh bien, madame, you seek my advice, I give it to you. This belle histoire may be a hoax, but it may not. Therefore, I counsel you to place the diamond in my keeping until after Friday next. Then we can take what steps we please. A slight cloud passed over the actress's face, and she replied constrainedly, I'm afraid that's impossible. You have it with you, Hein. Poirot was watching her narrowly. The girl hesitated a moment, then slipped her hand into the bosom of her gown, drawing out a long, thin chain. She leaned forward, unclosing her hand. In the palm, a stone of white fire, exquisitely set in platinum, lay and winked at us solemnly. Poirot drew his breath with a long hiss. Epatant, he murmured. You permit, madame? He took the jewel in his own hand and scrutinized it keenly, then restored it to her with a little bow. A magnificent stone without a flaw. Ah, centenaires. And you carry it about with you, comme ça. No, I'm very careful, really, Monsieur Poirot. As a rule, it's locked up in my jewel case and left in the hotel safe deposit. We're staying at the Magnificent, you know. I just brought it along today for you to see. And you will leave it with me, n'est-ce pas? You will. Advised by Papa Poirot. Well, you see, it's this way, Monsieur Poirot. On Friday, we're going down to Yardley Chase to spend a few days with Lord and Lady Yardley. Her words woke a vague echo of remembrance in my mind. Some gossip, what was it now? A few years ago, Lord and Lady Yardley had paid a visit to the state. Rumor had it that his lordship had rather gone out there with the assistance of some lady friends. Surely there was something more gossip which coupled Lady Yardley's name with that of a movie star in California. Why, it came to me in a flash. Of course, it was none other than Gregory B. Rolfe. I'll let you into a little secret, Monsieur Poirot, Miss Marvel was continuing. We've got a great deal on with Lord Yardley. There's some chance of our arranging to film a play down there in its ancestral pile. At Yardley Chase, I cried, interested. Why, it's one of the show places of England. Miss Marvel nodded. I guess it's the real old feudal stuff all night. All right. But he wants a pretty stiff price, and of course I don't know yet whether the deal will go through. But Greg and I always like to combine business with pleasure. But I demand pardon if I am dense, madame. Surely it was possible to visit Yardley Chase without taking the diamond with you. A shrewd, hard look came into Miss Marvel's eyes, which belied their childlike appearance. She looked suddenly a good deal older. I want to wear it down there. Surely, I said suddenly, there are some very famous jewels in the Yardley collection, a large diamond amongst them. That's so, said Miss Marvel briefly. I heard Poirot murmur beneath his breath, Ah, c'est comme ça. Then he said aloud with his usual uncanny luck in hitting the bull's-eye. He dignifies it by the name of psychology. Then you are without doubt already acquainted with Lady Yardley, or perhaps your husband is? Gregory knew her when she was out west 3 years ago, said Miss Marvel. She hesitated a moment, and then added abruptly, Do either of you ever see society gossip? We both pleaded guilty rather shamefacedly. I asked because of this week's number there is an article on famous jewels, and it's really very curious. She broke off. I rose, went to the table at the other side of the room, and returned with the paper in question in my hand. She took it from me, found the article, and began to read aloud. Amongst other famous stones may be included the Star of the East, a diamond in the possession of the Yardley family. An ancestor of the present Lord Yardley brought it back with him from China, and a romantic story is said to attach to it. According to this, the stone was once the right eye of a temple god. Another diamond exactly similar in form and size formed the left eye, and the story goes that this jewel too would in course of time be stolen. One eye shall go west, the other east, till they shall meet once more. Then in triumph shall they return to the god. It's a curious coincidence that there is at the present time a stone corresponding closely in description with this one, and known as the Star of the West or the Western Star. It's the property of the celebrated film star Miss Mary Marvel. A comparison of the two stones will be interesting. She stopped. Epatant, murmured Poirot, without doubt a romance of the first water. He turned to Mary Marvel. And you are not afraid, madame? You have no superstitious terrors? You do not fear to introduce these two Siamese twins to each other, lest a Chinaman should appear and, hey presto, whisk them both back to China? His tone was mocking, but I fancied that an undercurrent of seriousness lay beneath it. I don't believe that Lady Yardley's diamond is anything like as good as mine, said Miss Marvel. Anyway, I'm going to see. What more Poirot would have said I do not know, for at that moment the door flew open and a splendid-looking man strode into the room. From his crispy, curling black head to the tips of his patent leather boots, he was a hero fit for romance. I said I'd call round for you, Mary, said Gregory Rolfe, and here I am. Well, what does Monsieur Poirot say to our little problem? Just one big hoax, same as I do? Poirot smiled up at the big actor. They made a ridiculous contrast. Hoax or no hoax, Mr. Rolfe, he said dryly, I have advised Madame, your wife, not to take the jewel with her to Yardley Chase on Friday. I'm with you there, sir. I've already said so to Mary. But there. She's a woman through and through, and I guess she can't bear to think of another woman outshining her in the jewel line. What nonsense, Gregory, said Mary Marvel sharply, but she flushed angrily. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. Madame, I have advised. I can do no more. C'est fini. He bowed them both to the door. Ah la la, he observed, returning. Histoire de femme. The good husband, he hit the nail on the head, tout de même, but he was not tactful, assuredly not. I imparted to him my vague remembrances, and he nodded vigorously. So I thought, all the same, there is something curious underneath all this. With your permission, mon ami, I will take the air. Await my return, I beg of you. I shall not be long. I was half asleep in my chair when the landlady tapped on the door and put her head in. It's another lady to see Monsieur Poirot, sir. I've told her he was out, but she says how she'll wait, seeing as she's come up from the country. Oh, show her in here, Mrs. Murchison. Perhaps I can do something for her. In another moment the lady had been ushered in. My heart gave a leap as I recognized her. Lady Yardley's portrait had figured too often in the society papers to allow her to remain unknown. Do sit down, Lady Yardley, I said, drawing forward a chair. My friend Poirot is out, but I know for a fact that he'll be back very shortly. She thanked me and sat down. A very different type, this from Miss Mary Marvel. Tall, dark, with flashing eyes and a pale, proud face, yet something wistful in the curve of her mouth. I felt a desire to rise to the occasion. Why not? In Poirot's presence I have frequently felt a difficulty. I do not appear at my best. And yet there is no doubt that I too possess the deductive sense in a marked degree. I leaned forward on such sudden impulse. Lady Yardley, I said, I know why you have come here. You have received blackmailing letters about the diamond. There was no doubt as to my bolt having shot home. She stared at me open-mouthed, all color vanished from her cheeks. You know, she gasped. How? I smiled. By a perfectly logical process. If Miss Marvel has had warning letters, Miss Marvel, she has been here. She has just left. As I was saying, if she is a holder of one of the twin diamonds, has received a mysterious sense of warnings, you as a series of warnings, you as the holder of the other stone must necessarily have done the same. You see how simple it is. I am right then. You have received these strange communications also. For a moment she hesitated, as though in doubt whether to trust me or not. Then she bowed her head in assent with a little smile. That is so, she acknowledged. Were yours too left by hand by a Chinaman? No, they came by post, but tell me, has Miss Marvel undergone the same experience then? I recounted to her the events of the morning. She listened attentively. It all fits in. My letters are the duplicates of hers. It is true that they came by post, but there is a curious perfume impregnating them, something in the nature of joss stick, that at once suggested the East in me. What does it all mean? I shook my head. That's what we must find out. You have the letters with you? We might learn something from the postmarks. Unfortunately, I destroyed them. You understand, at the time I regarded some foolish joke. Can it be true that some Chinese gang are really trying to recover the diamonds? It seems too incredible. We went over the facts again and again, but could get no further towards the elucidation of the mystery. At last Lady Yardley rose. I really don't think I need to wait for Monsieur Poirot. You can tell him all this, can't you? Thank you so much, Mr. She hesitated, her hand outstretched. Captain Hastings. Of course, how stupid of me. You're a friend of the Cavendishes, aren't you? It was Mary Cavendish who sent me to Monsieur Poirot. When my friend returned, I enjoyed telling him the tale of what had occurred during his absence. He cross-questioned me rather sharply of the details of the conversation, and I could read between the lines that he was not best pleased to have been absent. I also fancied that the dear old fellow was just the least inclined to be jealous. It had become rather opposed with him to constantly belittle my abilities, and I think he was chagrined at finding no loophole for criticism. I was secretly rather pleased with myself, though I tried to conceal the fact for fear of irritating him. In spite of his idiosyncrasies, I was deeply attached to my quaint little friend. Bien, he said at length, with a curious look on his face. The plot develops. Pass me, I pray you, that peerage on the top shelf there. He turned the leaves. Ah, here we are. Yardley, 10th Viscount, served South African War. Tout ça n'a pas d'importance, Mar. 1907, Han, Maud Stopperton, fourth daughter of third Baron Carteret, has is. Two daughters, born 1908, 1910, clubs, residences, voila, that does not tell us much. But tomorrow morning we see this, milord. What? Yes, I telegraphed to him. I thought you had washed your hands of the case. I am not acting for Miss Marvel since she refuses to be guided by my evidence. What I do now is for my own satisfaction, the satisfaction of Hercule Poirot. Decidedly, I must have a finger in this pie. And you calmly wire Lord Yardley to dash up to town just to suit your convenience. He won't be pleased. Au contraire, if I preserve for him his family diamond, he ought to be very grateful. Then you really think there is a chance of it being stolen? I asked eagerly. Almost a certainty, replied Poirot placidly. Everything points that way. But how? Poirot stopped my eager questions with an airy gesture of the hand. Not now, I pray you. Let's not confuse the mind. And observe that peerage, how you have replaced him. See you not that the tallest books go in the top shelf, the next tallest in the row beneath, and so on. Thus we have order, method, which I have told you, Hastings. Exactly, I said hastily, and put the offending volume in its proper place. Lord Yardley turned out to be a cheery, loud-voiced sportsman with a rather red face, but with a good-humored bonhomie about him that was distinctly attractive and made up for any lack of mentality. Extraordinary business this, Monsieur Poirot. Can't make head or tail of it. Seems my wife's been getting odd kind of letters, and that Miss Marvel's had 'em too. What does it all mean? Poirot handed him the copy of Society Gossip. First, my lord, I would ask you if these facts are substantially correct. The peer took it. His face darkened with anger as he read. Damn nonsense, he sputtered. There's never been any romantic story attaching to diamond. It came from India originally, I believe. I've never heard of all this Chinese god stuff. Still, the stone is known as the Star of the East. Well, what if it is? He demanded wrathfully. Poirot smiled a little, but made no direct reply. What I would ask you to do, my lord, is to place yourself in my hands. If you do so unreservedly, I have great hopes of averting the catastrophe. Then you think there's actually something in these wild cat tales? Will you do as I ask you? Of course I will, but bien. Then permit that I ask you a few questions. This affair of Yardley Chase, is it, as you say, all fixed up between you and Mr. Rolfe? Oh, he told you about it, did he? No, there's nothing settled. He hesitated, the brick-red color of his face deepening. Might as well get the thing straight. I've made rather an ass of myself in many ways, Monsieur Poirot, and am head over ears in debt, but I want to pull up. I'm fond of these kids, and I want to straighten things up and be able to live at the old place. Gregory Rolfe is offering me big money, enough to set me on my feet again. I don't want to do it. I hate the thought of all that crowd playing, acting around the chase. But I may have to, unless he broke off. Poirot eyed him keenly. You have then another string to your bow? Permit that I make a guess. It's to sell the Star of the East? Lord Yardley nodded. That's it. It's been in the family for some generations, but it's not entailed. Still, it's not the easiest thing in the world to find a purchaser. Hofburg, the hat and garden man, is on the look for a likely customer, but he'll have to find one soon or it's in washout. One more question, permettez. Lady Yardley, which plan does she approve? Oh, she's bitterly opposed to my selling the jewel. You know what women are. She's all for this film stunt. I comprehend, said Poirot. He remained a moment or so in thought, then rose briskly to his feet. You return to Yardley Chase at once? Bien. Say no word to anyone, mind. But expect us there this evening. We will arrive shortly after 5. All right, but I don't see... Ça n'a pas d'importance, said Poirot kindly. You will that I preserve for you your diamond, n'est-ce pas? Yes, but... Then do as I say. The sadly bewildered nobleman left the room. It was 5:30 when we arrived at Yardley Chase, and it followed the dignified butler to the old panelled hall with his fire of blazing logs. A pretty picture met our eyes, Lady Yardley and her 2 children, the mother's proud dark head bent down over the 2 fair ones. Lord Yardley stood near, smiling down on them. Monsieur Poirot and Captain Hastings, announced the butler. Lady Yardley looked up with a start, for her husband came forward uncertainly, her eyes seeking instruction from Poirot. The little man was equal to the occasion. All my excuses. It is that I investigate still this affair of Miss Marvel's. She comes to you on Friday, does she not? I make a little tour first to make sure that all is secure. Also, I wanted to ask of Lady Yardley if she recollected at all the postmarks on the letter she received? Lady Yardley shook her head regretfully. I'm afraid I don't. It's stupid of me, but you see, I never dreamt of taking them seriously. You'll stay the night, said Lord Yardley. Oh, my lord, I fear to incommode you. We have left our bags at the inn. That's all right. Lord Yardley had his cue. We'll send down for them. No, no trouble, I assure you. Poirot permitted himself to be persuaded, and sitting down by Lady Yardley, began to make friends with the children. In a short time they were all romping together, and had dragged me into the game. Vous êtes bonne mère, said Poirot with a gallant little bow, as the children were removed reluctantly by a stern nurse. Lady Yardley smoothed her ruffled hair. I adore them, she said with a little catch in her voice, and they you, with reason. Poirot bowed again. A dressing gong sounded, and we rose to go up to our rooms. At that moment the butler entered with a telegram on a salver which he handed to Lord Yardley. The latter tore it open with a brief word of apology. As he read it, he stiffened visibly. With an ejaculation, he handed it to his wife. Then he glanced at my friend. Just a minute, Monsieur Poirot. I feel you ought to know about this. It's from Hofburg. He thinks he's found a customer for the diamond, an American sailing for the States tomorrow. They're sending down a chap tonight to vet the stone. By Jove, though, if this goes through. Words failed him. Lady Yardley had turned away. She still held the telegram in her hand. I wish you wouldn't sell it, George, she said in a low voice. It's been in the family so long. She waited as though for a reply, but when none came, her face hardened. She shrugged her shoulders. I must go and dress. I suppose I had better display the goods. She turned to Poirot with a slight grimace. It's one of the most hideous necklaces that was ever designed. George has always promised to have the stones reset for me, but it's never been done. She left the room.